Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of YHB TV, your Handmade Business Television. Academy of Handmade does this weekly series dedicated to helping you navigate everything maker life. As you can tell, I am flying solo this week. Normally I have with me my crafty co-conspirator, Isaac Watson. He is the other co-director of Academy of Handmade, but he is actually at a conference this week, and we decided that we already had one adventure in hotel Wi-Fi that did not wind up spectacular this month. So he is not going to be on today. So I'm Sharon Fain, and I am the other director and the founder of Academy of Handmade. And I am excited to talk with you guys this week about 5 things. Might be more than 5, depending on how we count these, for talking about yourself and about your business. So, because I mean, when you do this job, talking about your business is talking about yourself, and they kind of get intertwined. And so we'll kind of have that discussion about how to talk about yourself. I fully admit this is a topic that I could learn from. My background in other work is in PR, and so I definitely feel like this is advice I like to give. It is advice that I don't always take so well. So we will discuss all of that today. If you are just joining us, please pop in and say hello in the chat area. Let us know you're here. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and what you make. If you have any questions, there's an Ask a Question area. Feel free to pop that in as well. While we are getting started, I did want to let everyone know about the State of Making. It is actually next week, so next Thursday. We are not even going to have this broadcast since we are doing the State of Making. We're really excited about it. If you have not registered for it yet, please do so. If you cannot make it, I'm going to put this into the chat area. That is, I think it's also our call to action. Yes, the call to action button is State of Making. So you can click on that, click on whatever's in the chat. But if you haven't registered for it yet, you can watch the replays even if you are not able to watch it live. Let your other maker friends know. It's totally free, and we have really great guests and panels and topics. So just a quick recap, we're going to talk about, it's 2 days. The first day is 3 sessions. The first day we're going to talk about the maker economy. So what's happening right now. We've noticed some trends. We're going to talk with a couple people to see if they also have been seeing similar trends in what's happening. The next session after that is being the CEO. Which is difficult, right? When you are in a handmade business, you are the sort of chief producer of products, but you're also this person who has all these admin duties. So we talk about being the CEO and what that looks like with Janet LeBlanc of Paper and Spark and Katie Hunt of Trade Show Bootcamp. And then the third session and final session for that day, Thursday, May 3rd, we're going to talk about digital strategy and social media, which I feel like there's always a lot to say because that is always constantly changing. The next day, Friday, May 4th, we're going to talk about Etsy. So much to cover, a lot going on there. We have 2 amazing people, Amanda Siska of Bread and Badger and Jennifer Gillespie Young of the Idea Box Kids. Session 5, we're going to talk about Etsy alternatives. So 2 people in particular, Elizabeth Rappa of Forgotten Cotton is going to talk about Amazon Handmade, and Ariane Folks is going to talk about having your own website. And then we're going to wrap it up. Last session of the day on Friday, May 4th is wholesale, which, yeah, I mean, sort of big questions there too about what's happening in wholesale world because of retail, things like that. So, yeah. If any of those topics sound of interest to you, go ahead and register. You can already go in there and ask questions of the speakers. So we would highly encourage you to put any questions you have related to those topics in the sessions as you already have them, so that we will make those a priority to get to when we actually go live. So if you guys have any questions about that, let me know in the chat too. I'll try to answer them. But let's start diving in and talking about yourself and why that's sort of difficult. I guess, like I mentioned, you are sort of your business. And inevitably, I think this is, my husband and I have discussed this actually quite a bit, a uniquely American thing about how if you are at a party or somewhere meeting someone for the first time, inevitably comes up, what do you do? And it's usually like a first question. In America, I feel like we're very tied to our work and who we are as people. I could go a lot on and on about the pros and cons of that. But more importantly is that it's going to probably come up. And if you are running your own business and have, you know, a handmade business, it can kind of be awkward to talk about because you sort of know all the difficulties that are going on inside of it. And because it's so close to you, it can feel very close to bragging. And especially if you're a woman, as women, we're definitely shamed into not like anything that promotes ourselves or, you know, speaking highly about ourselves, it comes off as bragging. So I think we're already like accustomed to not bragging about ourselves. So talking, you know, very effusively about our own businesses comes off as braggy to us. But I also think that when you're inside your own business, I know this is true for me, it is hard to tell someone on the outside what your business is because you see, it's hard to have that outside perspective so much. I don't know how else to say that, but it's very difficult to see your business the way other people see it instead of like your everyday run about this or that. So that is why I thought it was important to have this discussion. I put up a poll if you'd like to take it, asking you how you feel about talking about yourself. And the answers are I always fumble over what to say. I could go on and on about my business. Someone cut me off, and I generally find it easy and people understand what I do. So if you don't fit into one of those, you can actually add one or let me know in the chat. That was my dog, if you just heard that snorting in the background. Anyways, so let's dive into tips for talking about yourself. And if you have anything that you have found helpful, feel free to add it in the chat too. The first thing that I think is foundational and just good advice in general is that have a mission statement about your business already written up and like kind of memorized. So if you don't know what a mission statement is, it is a description of the job you do sort of every day and who your business is for, and what they do. And it's pretty simple. You can look up mission statement templates online. It's not about the vision for your business, which is the vision statement. It's just sort of like the things that your business does, you know, every day and who it serves every day. It's a very fundamental thing that's sort of at the core of your business to sort of like help anchor you so that you don't start drifting off in weird directions by adding products that don't relate to your mission or doing new, I guess, business models that don't really relate to your business or customer. So having a mission statement is just if anyone who's going to work with you on like branding or marketing will always want you to have a mission statement. So crafting one of those is fundamental. So craft one of those and then basically kind of memorize it for people that you're going to talk to. So it can help you aid in succinctly expressing what your business does and who it's for at the very least. So that is number one, have a mission statement written up and memorized or memorize a version of it, at least if yours maybe feels a little too formal to share with people. And then kind of going along with that. So one of the things that you should avoid in a mission statement and just talking about yourself in general is avoid using jargon. So jargon tends to be like technical insidery terms that most people don't understand, right? Like they're usually industry specific. They tend to be lots of, shortened words or, abbreviations and other such things, acronyms or whatever, that is usually mostly, understood like, ROI or other things like that. I guess those are sort of now become more outside of your business terms, but they're kind of just uselessly words outside of maybe the industry that you're in. When I think of jargon in the handmade community, is that I think jargon here is that a lot of makers can get a little too specific about what it is they make and create because you've niched down your audience so much that you're being really good about your SEO on Etsy, and you have all of these, very specific words that you're using to target people. And that is great, right? Like that is so good for bringing people to your business, the right kind of people to your business. But when you're talking about your business in a much more general sense, somebody who you don't know is a customer yet, if you use those words and terms, you're going to get a blank stare because that's not something that they are probably familiar with, or that might not make sense in that sort of context to them. So try to use words that, if you make a very specific kind of doll, or whatever, like you don't need to go into like all of the weird details about that. Like just sort of give them enough of an overview to kind of understand what it is that you're doing. They're not going to come work for you. Everyone doesn't have to know exactly what you do in the most precise details and get you. It's just enough so that somebody kind of understands the basic of what you do. So even though you think a word is more precise in your industry, when you're meeting someone new, it's okay to explain it to them in terms that they will grasp. And I think especially if you're looking for funding and other things, that becomes really important. So if you ever watch like Shark Tank, especially, you'll see them kind of get annoyed with people that are too insidery on some of the things that they're saying. They just want the bottom line of what's happening in the conversation. So another thing to avoid when talking about yourself is saying things that will minimize your place in the business world. And obviously, I think we get told this a lot as women, and I think as small business owners, to make sure that we are, not falling into the temptation of saying, oh, this is just I have just an Etsy business, or I have this, I feel like when I ask makers what they do too, like they can really start to use words to make it sound smaller and tiny. And, they'll use words like small and tiny, which saying small business, can be fine. But if it's kind of done in this way to like, I have this tiny Etsy shop or whatever, like that just sounds like, I don't know, like more information that's not really relevant. Like, I didn't ask the size of your company or whatever. So it just automatically comes off as you trying to oddly minimize what your business does in this world and what you're doing in this world. So it's this same thing too, I think, as saying, I run a creative small business selling whatever it is that you make, selling, coasters. Versus I have an Etsy shop. So if you're saying I run a small creative business selling these things, that sounds like, you're in a position to be a business owner. You're making decisions. It's your thing. It grows on you, whatever, even if it's a part-time job. If you say I have an Etsy shop, it really just sounds to people like this is a hobby. And because Etsy is such a wide variety of things to people now, and is sort of just a very generic marketplace at this point. It's like in 2018 saying I have an Etsy shop is like saying I have a Facebook page or I sell on Amazon. Like this just kind of tells you like your business model. It doesn't actually tell you the business. So I really think avoiding saying I have an Etsy shop, I realize this has kind of just become shorthand, but I think it's a really bad way to talk about your business. Unless having an Etsy shop is just a hobby for you, I guess. I don't like the term side hustle. Again, I think that can be kind of minimizing language too, unless it really is a thing that you literally just started doing and are kind of like ramping to get up. If this is something that you've just started in the last 6 months and, it's not really making any money, but you're kind of trying, it's a passion project, that's fine. But if it's a year in, if it's 2 years into whatever it is that you've been doing, even if you're not really making a lot of money off of it, just say what it is. People don't need to know this side hustle-y part of it. Are you an artist or trying to become one? Just claim that you're an artist. Like, it doesn't need to be this weird, I don't know. I feel like side hustle just starts to get a little too into the minimizing hobby of things. And it can just almost make it sound like you're really unhappy with the other start of what you're doing. So just say what you are and what you're doing. And the other thing that I would say in this is that don't list faults to counterbalance anything that you feel like is braggy. So one of the things that I will tend to do is I will weirdly, just if I feel like I've been bragging about my business too much, I will then weirdly start to tell people how it's hard and the things about it that make it difficult. I don't know why. I think I kind of do why, which is to sort of say that I think there's this tendency to want people to understand that creative work is hard, and that's definitely true. But I also think that there's a part of it where you're wanting people to not weirdly get expectations or think it's cooler than it is. I don't know how else to say that, but what you are doing is cool, whether or not it's fulfilling all of the expectations you have about it. What you're doing is cool and you should embrace it. It's something that you're passionate about. So quick recap. Number 1, have a mission statement. Number 2, avoid jargon. And then number 3, avoid saying things that will minimize your place in the business world. So number 4 that I have on here is regularly review and list your achievements. I think this is really important so that for a lot of reasons, but I think it keeps fresh in your mind things that you've been doing that you can talk to people about, that your business is doing well. So if you were at not your business, if you're doing something else, you would, if somebody asked you about your business, you would say something like, oh, we just won this blah, blah, blah account, or, oh, we're, doing X and Y cool thing right now. And I think it's important to tell people the successes that you're doing in your business too. So regularly reviewing and listing your achievements, you can sort of helps you to remember to share with people what's going on in your business, to help them understand what's happening. Did you just get your first wholesale order? That's a big deal. That's interesting to people. Did you just get your 100th wholesale order? Are you in your 50th shop? All of these things are things that are helpful for people to understand what kind of business you have. And especially, like I said, when you say I have an Etsy shop, people really see something as small and grandma crafty sometimes that comes with that, or they kind of just see it as a place of random hobbyist junk sometimes. So because there's such a diverse view of what Etsy is, I think it's kind of helpful to let people know that a handmade business is a real business and you're doing business things like getting your first wholesale order, or did you just release a new product, or are you expanding your line, or did you just open your own standalone website? Are you going to be pursuing a trade or craft show? All of those things help for people to understand what your business is about and that you're doing businessy things. I think that's just really important, that they understand people just have this idea that you're at home playing with glitter and paint or something, that you're a preschool teacher. Not that preschool teachers do not have hard jobs, but basically you're just, it's arts and crafts time at your home all the time. So that is not That is not what we want people to understand. We want them to get that what you do is a real business. Finally, talking about yourself the way that you want people to talk about and treat you. So when you bring up stuff about what you are and what you do, it's conditioning them for how they think about you, right? So you want to condition them to understand that art and craft is, and creativity has business involved in it, like I said, and it's not just crafty playtime. It's fun and meaningful, and also it's hard work. So depending on who you're talking to, emphasizing different aspects of those might be important. I think if you're in the creative community, it's, you know, different than if you're talking to somebody that's outside of it. But letting people know that it's hard work, I think is important. That's different than letting people know all of the recent failures in your business, or, you know, trying to undercut yourself. But like, people should know that like you are doing business things. So everyone who has a job basically understands that work is hard. And I think it's easy for them to sometimes look at you because you might work at home, or, you know, have this, you know, really interesting and creative looking business from the outside, for them to think it is all just, you know, weird weird conceptions we have about artists, right? So that's not necessarily true. If you have that life, well, then by all means, let me know. I'd love to know your secret, but that is usually not how it is. And people really have this weird idea of what artists do, and how hard it is being an artist, and how difficult that business side of it is. Whether you're trying to sell to a retail store, or whether you have, you know, art that you're trying to put up in a gallery, it's business that's work. So those are the 5 things. Recap: have a mission statement, avoid jargon, avoid saying things to minimize your place in the business world, regularly list and review your achievements, and then 5, talk about yourself the way you want people to talk about and treat you. If you have any questions on any of those things, let me know. In the poll, we have 1 vote. How do you feel about talking about yourself in business? And you mentioned, and you 1 vote for, I always fumble over what to say. You totally get that, that feeling as well. So if you guys don't have any other questions, I would love to remind you that next week's YHB TV is not happening. It's going to be the State of Making. State of Making will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, and it will be Thursday and Friday of next week. So really looking forward to that. Tell your maker friends, make sure you register. It's going to be awesome. The link is in the chat or the call to action area below here for State of Making. Make sure that you join us. All right. It was good chatting with all of you. And the invisible we of Isaac, who is not here, we'll hopefully see you all next week for State of Making.